Hello everyone, and a warm welcome to all of you. I'm glad to see everyone back. I know these words may sound a bit repetitive, but I want to repeat them nonetheless. Truly, love, familiarity, and closeness are the values I want to build, create, and preserve. It reflects one of my biggest motivations for doing this program, to preserve the values I bring to you. It needs to express love, and there will always be love in it. I cannot record a program without wanting to bring some good to my audience. It's not a coincidence that I call everyone my confidants. It's a term that also encompasses familiarity and closeness. These two words might seem synonymous, right? But in reality, they are not. If you pay close attention, the term familiar is akin to being family. However, you may notice that there are familiar people who are not necessarily close, meaning they may have a friendly relationship but sometimes do not share their thoughts or feelings. That's why I felt the need to find another word to include in the program's slogan. So, I came up with closeness. Closeness implies a lack of distance and secrecy. In this program, there are many ideas, thoughts, and concepts I share that I believe can be quite controversial. When we bring them to a gathering or a dinner with close friends, they might spark debate, and we could feel lonely if we hold such views. Even though I believe they are good and have enough reasons to think they are beneficial in life, many people may not agree. I understand the feeling of many who hold beliefs they think are good for others but keep them to themselves. They may feel that those around them will not agree or will push back. For example, the perspectives on love that I discuss in this program are not universally accepted. When brought up in public, they can sometimes lead to harsh criticism. Yet, in this program, we maintain a peaceful environment where we can share such topics. Clearly, it is only through closeness and familiarity that we can discuss these matters. I accept the decline in views and interactions to talk about the stories and ideas I find valuable, even if many may not appreciate them. That's a fair price to pay for sharing what I believe is beautiful, without resorting to sensationalism or exploiting the dopamine industry for profit. Regardless, I take pride in that. So let me reiterate the guiding principle of this program: love, familiarity, and closeness will always remain. Always. I will continue to bring you what I believe in and what I apply in my daily life. There is nothing I say in this program that I do not practice myself. Therefore, if by some chance you encounter me on a trip or in some setting where you hear me speak, you'll find that I am quite consistent. I tend to repeat what I say in the program. Sometimes, I even find myself saying things that sound very much like what I've said before. In those moments, I try to remind myself to change my approach so that I don't fall into a monotonous pattern or become overly serious. There are times I have to pull back a bit to avoid sounding too stiff or formal. Ultimately, I want to express to you all that I truly cherish you. I see you as connected through emotions, even though we are only linked through waves. Yet, there remains an abundance of love, familiarity, and closeness. This love and connection is the gift, the spirit, and the blessing I wish to convey to all of you. I hope your lives will be filled with love, familiarity, and closeness. Now, let's return to our main topic today. In the title, you'll notice a quote from a famous Icelandic writer and playwright named Samuel Beckett. The pronunciation of Samuel Beckett may not be very common, and even I find it a bit strange. So, allow me to read it in a more familiar way that many might instinctively use. Samuel Beckett. Samuel Beckett has a wonderful quote that I particularly like: "Ever tried? Ever failed? No matter. Try again. Fail again. Fail better." Wow, this is a thought-provoking perspective on how we view success and failure. Many people fear failure. To them, failure feels like a curse in their lives. Many here may understand this fear when starting a business, embarking on a new project, or entering a relationship. I empathize with you, I truly do. I'm not speaking from a place of detachment. I approach these discussions with an understanding of common thoughts because I've been there too. We all fear failure, or at least we have at some point. We view it as something terrible. But let me ask you this, when we fear failure, can we avoid it? Probably not. If we could avoid failure just by fearing it, that would be fantastic. But once you start a project or endeavor, fearing failure doesn't guarantee you won't experience it. In other words, the laws of life continue to operate regardless of your fear of failure. What is that law? It seems everyone will eventually face failure. Very few people escape it. Rarely does a project succeed right away. Regardless of how experienced someone is, or how much knowledge they have, a smooth journey from A to Z is almost non-existent. There will always be setbacks, failures, and frustrating moments. So why don't we reconsider our relationship with failure? It's going to happen anyway. Why fear something that is certain to come? Of course, saying this might sound overly philosophical. It may seem trivial to tell someone not to fear failure. But we need to find a more appropriate way to approach it rather than resorting to empty platitudes. Fortunately, we have someone of great credibility and success, a Nobel Prize-winning author from 1969, Samuel Beckett. He states, "Ever tried? Ever failed? No matter. Try again. Fail again. Fail better." This perspective is fascinating. People no longer view failure as a curse or a literal failure in the traditional sense. Instead, they begin to see failure as a necessary step, as an ingredient for success. People view failure as data. Some see failure as a dead end, while others view it as information. They analyze that information and learn from it, improving their next attempt. Oh, what a wonderful perspective. However, I would like to add my own thoughts to this quote. I know I'm humble, and I'm not special in any way. So, when I place my words alongside someone like Samuel Beckett, I feel a bit inadequate. Allow me to put my thoughts in parentheses, as a supplement. I believe this supplementary thought will help you contextualize this philosophy so that it doesn't go astray. Let me add a caveat, don't fail catastrophically. So, to repeat, ever tried? Ever failed? No matter. Try again. Fail again. Fail better, but don't fail catastrophically. Now we have a safety limit to ensure we don't go too far. Let's take an example. Imagine you're walking down a road that has potholes. If we consider this scenario at 8 a.m. on a familiar road, it might be hard to visualize. So let me set the context. It's 8 p.m., and this is a new road you're traveling for the first time. There's a good chance you'll encounter a pothole and stumble, resulting in failure. When things don't go as planned, you might already perceive that as a failure. However, life may require you to travel this road every day. There are no streetlights. You see this as a new place where you've moved, and you need to get to work. Every day around 7 or 8 p.m., you have to traverse this road. Now what? You don't have the option to avoid this road because it's the only way home. You may try to leave work earlier, but your boss won't allow it. These are the circumstances of life that impose themselves on you. The important thing is that you must reflect on the fall you experienced on that road yesterday and analyze it. You have already faced a failure. That's a fact, that's data, don't waste it. Analyze it. Oh, there was a bush on the left side, and there was a pothole there. So today, when I get to that section, I'll proceed very slowly and cautiously to navigate safely. Once I pass that, I can resume my normal pace because I now know, I remember, and I am aware that a pothole is there. Clearly, from your failure, you've learned to avoid that previous mistake. You've avoided that earlier failure, but it doesn't stop there. You might still stumble 2 kilometers down the road and encounter a new pothole, resulting in another failure. But this time, it's a better failure. Why? Because you didn't repeat the old mistake. You were safe from the previous fall. This next stumble will be gentle and manageable because, as I mentioned, don't fail catastrophically. But what does that mean? It means that the speed at which we travel on this road should be moderate. It should be slow enough to avoid hitting the pothole, so we only veer slightly off course instead of falling flat. Thus, we experience failure, and this time we remember that pothole. And so, we continue to encounter failures, one after another. The result of experiencing these failures is that we no longer fall on that road because we know it like the back of our hand. We are familiar with that road. Doesn't the motto, "Ever tried? Ever failed? No matter. Try again. Fail again. Fail better," resonate on this road? While this is a metaphorical idea, I believe you can apply this metaphor to nearly everything in your life. It will be very useful, as long as you don't fail catastrophically. Let me give you an example from another field, advertising design on social media, often referred to as running ads. The concept of testing is very familiar in this field. Testing means trying out different strategies. There's a method called A/B testing, which involves splitting the audience to see which version performs better. However, in reality, I find it's more complex than that, so I won't get into the simple A/B testing analysis. Many times, they will experiment with multiple variations continuously. Now that we have AI, their testing methods have become more sophisticated. So, I'll just use the term testing. The idea of testing in advertising is straightforward. You launch an ad, and if it fails, you analyze it to avoid the mistakes that caused that failure while retaining the successful elements of that ad. Then, you design a new ad based on those insights. The next ad will certainly be a better failure because it might still fail, but you've learned from the previous one. Thus, each failed ad continues to be refined and analyzed to avoid repeating its mistakes. Behind every ad, there are metrics recorded, such as where users clicked, how long they stayed, how many messaged from that ad, how many clicked away, and so on. They strive to identify the reasons for failures and analyze them so that the next design inherits only the good aspects. Clearly, failure now serves as information, and it's incredibly valuable. There's no reason to be upset about it, in fact, we can celebrate it. Without it, we wouldn't have data to work with. Many people are overly confident, especially those who have learned theory but lack practical experience. I'm sorry to say this, but I find it quite common. In reality, there are many things we read and learn that we think will be simple to apply in real life. But there's a saying I really like, often attributed to Einstein: in theory, theory and practice are the same. In practice, they are not. So, some people may have great ideas, at least in their minds. They may even feel a bit arrogant for coming up with these ideas. But how do we know if those ideas are truly good? We have to test them in reality. That's why many people who lack experience tend to be overly confident. However, as they work more, they become humbler and more realistic because they realize they fail often, even with ideas they were once very confident about. Many business ideas, project ideas, and design concepts look great on paper but fall apart in execution. Anyone involved in real projects knows that some plans look wonderful in theory but face numerous challenges when put into practice. At that point, people become grounded and humble. They realize they can't just throw out ideas without understanding the practical implications. They learn from their failures, which forces them to analyze and incorporate those lessons into their future designs, projects, and ideas. They begin to see the importance of practical application in their work. The initial failures become meaningful data, helping them improve. Ever tried? Ever failed? No matter. Try again. Fail again. Fail better, but don't fail catastrophically. The same applies to love, don't expect it to be perfect. I often find myself repeating this point, and I feel somewhat embarrassed because it's not new or groundbreaking. However, by some miracle, people still frequently ask me about this, giving me the opportunity to reiterate it. Thankfully, I've prepared for this, I'm a happy chatterbox. So, I must state this: when two people are in love, you should accept that there will be many bumps along the way. This isn't pessimism, I'm stating an obvious fact. Two people in a relationship can come from different backgrounds, ages, and environments. They may think differently, have different passions, different childhoods, and different interests. It's unreasonable and absurd to expect two people to always agree. It's not possible to say that everything should align perfectly. If you think that way, you're mistaken. It's important to acknowledge that it's completely normal for two people in a relationship to have differences. In fact, it's typical for couples to have conflicts and disagreements. With over 90% of their traits differing, disagreements are common. Therefore, when two people come together, they must pay attention to how they perceive these disagreements and conflicts. They should view them as opportunities for growth rather than fear them. Each time something arises that causes disagreement or resentment, there are generally three possible reactions. Firstly, they might argue fiercely without anyone backing down. Secondly, they might remain silent, reluctantly accepting the situation while secretly harboring resentment. Both of these reactions are problematic. I believe there's only one healthy approach that clearly signifies happiness and commitment. They need to analyze the differences with intention and effort. Why does this happen? They should discuss it openly. For example, one partner might have grown up in a controlling environment, leading them to be closed off. When they enter a family life where sharing space is necessary, they might feel overwhelmed. The other partner may wonder why their significant other seems distant or reserved despite being in a committed relationship. Most people often default to blame and criticism, which can lead to tension. However, this approach leaves unresolved feelings that can fester over time. It's clear that the best course of action is to view this as an initial failure in the relationship and work to analyze and resolve it. This involves sitting down and discussing their backgrounds, family dynamics, and how they grew up. Step by step, they need to listen to each other to understand each other's circumstances. For instance, "Oh, I see you had to be closed off growing up." While they may not fully grasp the situation yet, they're beginning to understand. Then, they can discuss boundaries. What does your need for personal space look like? How can we communicate about it? Establishing clear guidelines is essential. This way, the relationship can run smoothly instead of everyone guessing and fearing failure. It's possible that the solutions discussed may lead to further failures, but that's okay, they are opportunities for refinement. Being open and constructive indicates a commitment to the relationship. If someone isn't willing to engage in these discussions, they likely aren't committed to resolving issues. When we reach a certain level of understanding, we start to see invitations for these kinds of conversations. In essence, it's the embodiment of love. It shows that I recognize the problem and want to address it. What could signify a higher level of commitment and love than that? People want to be with you for the long haul. They want to be deeply connected and committed to you. That's why they invite you to discuss these matters. So, for anyone facing such invitations for discussion within their family, understand that this is a form of love that many may not recognize. It can be incredibly challenging. Samuel Beckett didn't say that failure leads to success, did he? He didn't oversimplify the issue. He didn't make us view the future in an overly optimistic way. Every quote he made includes the word failure without mentioning success. Ever tried? Ever failed? No matter. Try again. Fail again. Fail better. This implies that applying this philosophy can be challenging at times. It's not easy, folks. But it's a path worth considering for achieving happiness and success in your life. From now on, applying this might not be simple, but it's worthwhile. After all, nothing in life comes easy. Take your career, for instance. Those of you who are freshly graduated understand what I mean. The salary may not be high initially, but how long did it take to reach that position? 12 years of primary and secondary education, 4 years of university, that's 16 years, which is no small feat. You accept that reality. Yet, in other aspects of life, you might find similar situations that only take half the time. But why do we complain about the length, the difficulty, or the challenges. Are we being hypocritical? That's a point I'll leave open for discussion. The program has already gone on long enough. Thank you all for listening to me.